So I want to start off by saying that this episode will in fact be the final episode of Season 1. What started out as a simple desire to reconnect with some old students ultimately led me on a journey. The journey was to see if I could find clues from these students' successes and failures that could help others who listen better cope with their lives, or at least feel less alone in their own struggles. I also wanted to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that high school matters. After so many amazing discussions, plenty of laughter, lots of tears, thousands of downloads, and multiple fights with my wife about how much time I'm spending on this podcast, I have to say humbly, mission accomplished. It's honestly emotional to end the first season at all. But I'm also happy to say that the mission will continue. My original plan was to end this first season with the last episode you just heard with Josh Kamali. Something seems so fitting about closing out season 1 with an old student turned close friend who not only inspired me to do this podcast, but gave me the confidence to through our many conversations. After lots of deliberation and thought, I realized the actual best way to bring this entire season full circle would be for me to have a discussion with the teacher that inspired me way back when I was a student. This way, I could prove that high school also mattered to me. So I did just that. I reconnected with my own honors chemistry teacher that I had back in 11th grade, Mr. Amara, who I hadn't spoken to since, believe it or not, the mid-1990s. It was such a special and personal conversation, but most importantly, it was the perfect way to close out this first season. And with that, as always, thanks for listening. Is there a bigger weight of significance put on the fact that I chose a career because of you versus what you did for that girl? And I'm sure there is 100 other versions of both of those that you've been a part of.
It's really nice, the career path. But any influence that I've had in any way, shape, or form feels really good. Like, really, really good. And again, of all the people I've taught, and it was a gazillion people, the fact that, I'm here with you now kind of thing is really special.
High school matters. Come on, let's talk about it.
Welcome to High School Matters, the podcast dedicated to conversations that I have with my former high school students. My name is Randy Appel, and I've been teaching high school since the year 2000. And this podcast really started because during the COVID pandemic, I had all this free time. So I started to reflect. I started to reflect on my life as a parent, as a teacher, and I started to think, how great would it be if I could reconnect with the students that I lost touch with over the years and kind of catch up, talk about high school, talk about things in high school that actually mattered to them then, but also that still matter to them now. And honestly, this podcast took on a life of its own. My conversation today is with my former high school chemistry teacher, Mr. Amara. Mr. Amara was the teacher who inspired me most to become a teacher. We discussed so many subjects that came up this entire season, and also so much more. I can't think of a better way to end this first chapter of this journey than to spend this episode talking with a teacher who I admire, respect, and who not only inspired me to become a teacher, but also inspired me to be the kind of teacher I am today. I hope you enjoy this final episode of Season 1 of High School Matters. Let's see, maybe a little closer, just because
Okay.
a lot of rules.
I know,
You
is
usually
tough.
make the rules, and
This
now
is tough, man. I know. It was like you became a bossy guy.
I was never that kind of
I
guy,
used to be
right?
a nice kid. Now all of a sudden, like, holy shit, what happened now?
All right, let's see how that sounds. All right, you ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Do I get to ask questions too?
You do. There's no rules here other than, well, there's no rules at
Okay.
all. Are you excited to do this?
I'm ready. I'm
But are you excited?
Yeah.
It is a very different situation for me. I normally interview kids. Mm-hmm. It's weird being on this side of the table. And I always ask, are you excited? And the first answer is, yeah, I'm excited because I get to speak to you. And I always thought they were just humoring me. But I feel very excited to talk to you.
There you go. I'm thrilled to see you. So absolutely.
I want to start by saying I called you a week ago, and I imagine it was probably the most odd phone call you've ever gotten from a prior student.
Yes.
Right?
That's for sure.
Can you tell me what you were thinking when I called you?
I was thinking I owed you money. And this kid's coming after me for some money. I must have borrowed $5 from when I was teaching. And now this kid's coming after me looking for the $5. And he's probably going to want interest and all this other stuff. And it's like, oh man, should I just move, change my number, or whatever?
It. Okay.
But that's pretty much it.
But was it weird that, like, you asked me questions and I'm like, listen, I don't want to talk to you about anything because I want to wait for this conversation. Was that weird for you?
No, I just figured you became rude since you got older.
Okay.
All
right. So that was all part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're retired, right? When did you retire?
2 years ago. Right before this whole COVID thing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So perfect timing.
Perfect timing. You've taught for how many years?
40.
40 years. That's a lot of years.
Yeah.
So you've had 40 years of education. You've had maybe 90 kids a year about? Is that like the typical average?
Probably.
Okay, so you have 3,600 kids around. Do you remember who I was in high school?
Okay. I remember faces.
Okay.
I usually don't remember names.
Okay.
Because you're a ginger, you stuck out.
Okay.
So because of that, I actually do remember you very, very clearly. I don't think I watched baseball games when you played. And your mom went to the games.
Oh, I was a baseball player, right? Yes.
Now, was your mom Judy?
My mom is... Wow, you remember my mom's name.
I stink at names. I really do. So I was just, like, amazed. It's, I know, like, And then I remembered your mom, and I remember going to watch, play baseball and stuff.
So you were one of those teachers that was involved. You went to these sporting events of your students.
Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah, so, okay, and let's build context, too. So you were taught for 40 years. I had you about 30 years ago. I had you, which is crazy to think in terms of timing, the 1992 to 1993 school year. So it's interesting that you even remember anything about that time. So, okay, so you remember, you went to the games back then because you were, I guess, younger and wanted to... Okay, so continue,
get a sense of the kids. And I remember your family being involved and stuff, and I remember your brother was an athlete also.
Yeah, my youngest brother was a real great athlete. Yeah.
I never went to see him. I didn't like him anyway, but,
Did you have any of my other brothers?
No, I didn't.
Okay, just me, okay.
Yeah, so that's why.
Okay. Do you remember me as a student in any way?
I remember you as a student being really smart and conscientious.
Do you?
Yeah.
Really?
I really do.
Do you remember why you remember that?
You were in the smart class. Also,
I was in it was in the honors class.
Right, you were in the smart class.
But do you remember how I was as a student, other than like that, conscientious, smarter kind of kid?
I remember you were very strong as a student. I remember you had like little mental quirks though, which is.
Do I really?
Yeah, it's why you became like a chemistry teacher. Those people are weird. They really
That
are.
is true. I always felt that. That's that.
Yeah.
I mean, because you were a quirky guy too.
Right, a little on the strange side.
That's it. So what do you mean when you say I had quirky tendencies?
You're just like, again, being a ginger, you stuck out. So you usually focus more on those kids.
Okay.
And I don't know if I called you ginger to your face or just to your back all the time. But
it's funny, was ginger, because I think ginger was not even a term back then.
It wasn't even a term, but that's okay. Can't let the truth get in the way,
But so I stuck out because I had red hair. But do you remember what else was quirky, if anything, about me?
No, the main thing I really remember about you is that you were really nice and really polite and very conscientious and scored well.
Okay.
That really mattered that much to me.
No, but it matters, right? That's part of nice. As a student and teacher, right? I did well in your class, and that was all part of it.
And you had a sense of humor. I remember that also.
Oh, you do remember that?
I remember kidding around a bunch.
Yeah, I that is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you personally, is because you, in many ways, are the reason I'm a chemistry teacher. I don't know if we ever talked about that. I don't know if you remember that part of our relationship.
Blame it on me, huh? Real nice.
And I say that because... also, I've had a bunch of teachers in my life, and I'm not sitting down talking to them. I'm talking to you. How does it feel that this student of yours, who you had 30 years ago, was inspired in some way by you to be a teacher?
It's nice. You never really know what kids, what sticks to what kids and stuff, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah. You had me, you said when you were...
That was probably my third year at Hewlett.
Oh, it was that early?
Yeah. Because I was there for 30 years. I was 10 years in a private school before that in Roslyn.
Oh, and then so third year in Hewlett, is that your tenure year?
Probably, yeah.
Oh, wow.
That would be it
I don't remember that. But so was there anything special about that year you remember? Is that why you remember me and maybe remember more about that year? Because it was, the teacher's most significant year probably as a teacher is that 10-year year when,
No, honestly, the only reason I remember you is the red hair. Other than that, you didn't stick out at all. Like,
That's it.
Who the hell is this Randy Appel? And then I saw the red hair when you came in. Oh, that guy. That's who it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're acknowledging I still have some hair on my head.
Yeah, ditto here. So
That's it.
I can't comment on that one.
Okay, good. I had you 92, 93, but I actually would come back every so often and say hello because you were you and a few other teachers or teachers I cared about. I want to talk about the time I told you I was going to be a teacher. Because I remember exactly what you said to me, but I'm wondering if you remember the feeling about how, that moment for you.
I don't recall the exact moment.
Uh-huh.
I think if you had said it now
Uh-huh.
and came to me and said you want to be a teacher, it might be a totally different answer.
What would it be now?
I think now it'd just be pretty much, are you sure? Like, you sure this is really something you want to do?
Why?
Because it has a bunch of pitfalls. Like right now, especially with COVID,
Yeah.
like it's not a good time to get started in teaching.
Right, it's weird. Okay.
Like with the hybrid and then the not hybrid and then all those other things. I like the field. Like I like kids. Hate adults. Like kids.
So that's what you'd say now.
That's what I would say. Now it's probably the same thing I would say then too.
Okay, well, before we
Go
get...
ahead.
I'll get to that in a
Go
second,
ahead.
but that made me think, do you remember why you became a teacher? Do you remember how that played out?
Yeah, I had no desire to be a teacher.
Oh, you didn't?
Nothing at all. It's just not like, I grew up and I wanted to be a teacher. I saw teachers and loved teaching. None of that. Hated school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so being a teacher was not anywhere on my list. I was going to school. I was in pre-vet med and wanted to be a vet and got into like 2 vet schools, which was like a killer to get in. You bust your chops, but then basically didn't have the money to go. During that time when I was still on the vet track, I took education courses because they were easy to get my cum up.
Yeah, okay.
You take those science because it's like chemistry course. What are you
Yeah,
kidding
that's
me?
not to get your GPA.
That's killing you.
Okay.
That's absolutely killing you. So I took those to get my cum up, and when I did student teaching, I did it up in Northport, and I really liked it. I really liked interacting with the kids and stuff. And then I did like 2 different stints on student teaching and stuff, and it's like, wow, this is pretty good. I kind of like this. And I actually did an extra year of college just to finish off like ed stuff because I liked it that much. So then I came out of college and ended up getting a job in a private school in Roslyn.
So you wanted to be a vet.
Right.
You did well in the vet classes.
Right.
You also took education classes because they were easy and did well in those. And it's just your enjoyment of
kids.
Of
interacting with kids.
So you realized that you like kids more than animals? Is that really what happened?
No, I just didn't have enough money to do the animal part.
Oh,
I didn't
so
have
really,
enough money for
it was
vet school.
financial.
It was financial.
Oh,
So that's what killed the vet part.
Oh.
But I really did enjoy the kid thing and said, okay, let's go with this.
I talk about all the time, with when I speak to kids, these pivotal moments, and you took these classes not because you cared about education, but because you wanted it to boost your GPA,
Right.
And yet that's why you became a teacher,
Right, and it was just the student teaching class, that piece where you go out into the field.
Oh, so
and
that
do
you
student
really
teaching.
enjoyed
That's
that.
the one that I really enjoyed.
If you had money to go to be a vet, you would have been a vet.
Right,
If
would've
you had a
moved on.
bad student teaching experience, you would have done
I
something
would've
different.
something else
But yet all those things kind of played out, and here we are, which is
Right.
really interesting.
When I started it, and like I said, it was in this private school because it was like day before, and the salary was like $8,500.
Oh, wow.
Right? And at the same time, I had an offer from Dell Labs for $60,000, but they were going to put you in this little cubicle thing, and you just futz around with chemicals until you die. So I took the $8,500. Which,
Wow, that's a big
in retrospect, was the right move.
It was. You feel that?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I will tell you, because my path to becoming a teacher was also, a lot of things had to happen and fall into place for me to be there. You were not as encouraging as I thought you would be. You weren't discouraging, but your comment to me was, it's definitely not the big bucks.
Right.
But it wasn't like, just do it, but just know it's not the big bucks. You were very clear to tell me it's not the big bucks. Is that because of me growing up in this privileged life in Hewlett? Is that why you think you said that to me?
I think I would say it to anyone.
Okay.
I think the Hewlett factor was a factor in there.
Because Hewlett is filled with very wealthy, privileged kids. Right. I talk about it very openly. I was one of those kids. But that is a comment you make in general to kids. It wasn't specific to me.
Right. It's not, especially back in the day, it wasn't something that you're going to make big bucks at.
Do you have any regrets being a teacher?
No, none at all.
For 40 years, you had a career that you really loved.
Yeah, it took me 40 years to realize I didn't like kids. Because I was a little slow in that regard, but, that's what it was.
What was your favorite thing about being a teacher? Was it the kids?
Strictly the kids. 100% the kids.
I remember you had an amazing relationship with the class. My students probably would say this about me, and they have, so I'm not probably, they have, especially doing a podcast, they're pretty open with me. I don't go to school feeling like I go to a job. I go to school feeling like, it's a job, but like, I love it. And the kids get it, and the kids know that I'm there. They tell me I'm happy. They tell me that I never have a bad day, and everyone has bad days, but we all fake it. You mask it, yeah. But I remember being in your class and never feeling like you ever having a bad day. What was that? Is that part of your persona? Like, was that intentional? Or was it just your love of teaching and kids?
No, I just really enjoyed being in the classroom.
Yeah.
I had bad days outside of the classroom. In the classroom could be an escape if you're having bad days, in personal life or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I really, really, really enjoyed the kids. Like,
was it the really respect they gave you? Like, what?
It was just fun. The respect was cool. Being called Mr. Amara like that. That's nice. But it was fun. You could interact with them and stuff and have fun.
I think, and I think that's really what separates the good teachers from the great teachers. That you actually loved your job and you had fun in the class. Like, we all. I mean, I did well in my chemistry regents. I still, to this day, I got a 95 in my chem regents. That means something. The fact that I remember it. I don't remember all my regents, but I remember my chem regents. And you prepared us well, so it wasn't like you just had fun. And it's weird. In my classroom, I teach the chemistry, of course, but I also talk about life. I don't remember much about that aspect of our class. I remember I'd come to extra help with you, but were you strictly like, when you come into my class, it's chemistry, 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 or was there life sprinkled in?
I think it was more life than chemistry, because the chemistry they're going to forget.
Right.
Somebody like you would remember it, but everything else is life and jokes and having fun.
Yeah, that's
just keep motivated enough, because it could be a tough subject.
Right. So was that intentional though on your part to keep it fun and keep it light, even though you're learning this very complicated subject? Was that like intentional, or was it just part of your fun?
No, it was both. The life lessons were more individualized. When you take a kid, I had a girl. And she had come to me, and I didn't even remember. I remembered her name. I remembered her face. Mm-hmm. And she contacted me 3 years ago.
Okay.
So now it's like, 20 years later, 15, 20 years later. And she said, just want to thank you. She was being deported.
Oh, wow.
Because it was during Trump's thing. And, she went to Hewlett and everything, graduated from Hewlett High School, and she was working out in Silicon Valley and was being deported, and just wanted to thank me because we had a talk at some point, which I didn't really remember. I vaguely remembered it. And it turns out she was gay and was feeling awkward or weird or whatever. And I said, look, statistically, 1 out of every 10 people in the classroom are gay. Mm-hmm. You're thinking you're just such an outsider. You're not. It's just they're not out there where you can, hear it and they'll talk to you about it. And she said, that made all the difference in my life.
That one conversation.
That one conversation. She said, I looked at it every time I was in the classroom. I was trying to figure out which one is the
which is the 3 out of the 30.
Right. And she said it meant everything. It made me comfortable with myself and made me more open, more at ease. That's where the life lessons come in.
But the fact that she was willing to come to you is not because of probably anything you said in the class, but who you were in the class.
Right. Yeah, it had nothing to do. I never talked about it. We put up that. The little rainbow cards once in a while or whatever, but everybody put them up
to show acceptance. But that was just a thing for the school. That wasn't a Mr. Amara thing.
Right.
That was
that was a couple of teachers started that and to support it.
Wow. So those are the stories that when you think back to your 40 years of teaching, are those the stories that stand out as like the most meaningful, or is it the classroom, or is it all the above?
No, I think those are the most meaningful.
Yeah.
When you hear something like that. And again, like I said, I didn't even really remember the conversation. I vaguely remember it. But, it was life-altering for her. And it's stuff like that. I had another parent come up to me when I was still teaching, and I had the kid in the class. And she said, please don't tell my daughter, and this is like 10th grade kid, right? Please don't tell my daughter, but my daughter came home and said she wants to marry you. And it was a kid who sat in like the first row, never said a word. Which it wasn't like she was in there all bubbly or participant or anything. So you never, ever, ever know.
Right.
Which kid you're connecting with. Sometimes it's obvious, but, you just never know which kids are hearing it.
So, I'm doing this podcast, as you know. I imagine, are you a podcast person?
No.
So you've never listened to any of my podcasts?
No.
So, I mean, what do you think about the fact that, because you talk about these, these stories of like inspirational moments for you. High school's tough, as you must know, and after 40 years of teaching. So one of the things I learned in the podcast is everyone's projecting an image, and yet that image is often not what's going on underneath. So when you think of the fact that I'm now talking to these kids 10, 20 years after they've been in my class, I don't know, what do you think is the most significant thing about me doing this?
I think it's really nice that you recognize and still have a connection.
Yeah.
I think the connection's huge.
Right.
It shows them that they matter, kind of a thing. And I think that's important for them to know. I mean, basically, I don't really reach out. I have kids reach out to me, but I don't usually reach out to them, which I think is really impressive.
Right.
What you're doing. So it's just a different thing, different concept for me. It's funny because right now I'm seeing a lady that I'm divorced.
You divorced?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm divorced. And I'm seeing a lady from Hewlett.
Huh.
And she keeps talking to me and saying, oh, well, this kid, once she found out that I was seeing her, this kid said, oh, please say hi for me. He was my favorite teacher. And she gets it like all the time, and it's, so all of a sudden I'll be hearing from this kid or that kid or the other kid the last few years, all of a sudden, like kids out of the blue. And like I said, you never have a clue.
It is weird as a teacher, you don't know, right?
Yeah, you just don't know.
Does it still feel great hearing that, or have you become desensitized to it?
No, it always feels great. I went to the pizza place over there in Hewlett.
Literally called The Pizza Place.
Pizza Place.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah. I went there the other day and just to grab a slice of pizza. And all of a sudden, at the next table, a bunch of kids go, oh, Mr. Amara, it feels good. It's like I had those kids like 10 years ago, whatever it was.
One of the things I've been teaching for 20 years, which, again, ages both of us, right, in a way. Or very
you more than me. Because you got to remember for a second here. Just stick up for my own age here.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. When you were in the class, you were what?
16?
16. So I'm 20 years older than you.
20 years older
16,
than me.
So I was 36.
Okay.
Which made me more than double your age.
Yep.
Okay, right now, I'm not double your age anymore. No. You're closing the gap. You're getting way older faster than me.
You are. That's
At some point, we're going to crisscross it.
So I'm actually aging myself. I'm not aging you.
There you go.
I'm aging me. Okay. But, I've noticed in 20 years a clear shift in parenting, actually. Have you, in your 40 years as an educator, have you noticed a clear shift in anything?
Yes. Like back in the day when you were there, if I had a problem with you, if I called home, you were going to get beaten.
Yeah, no, but that's I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, but now?
But now, they'll say, oh, they're out of control. I can't help you. What can I do?
Interesting, because,
and they won't take away like a cell phone or something like that.
No
it's
way.
Like, oh, there's no way they're doing that. Like, this is like things that seem to me obvious, and they're just, no, I can't do that.
It's funny to think that I've been teaching for 20 years or 21 years, and I learned almost more talking to kids after high school about what high school meant to them than I am when I'm in it. When you're in it, you don't really see it the same way. But when you kind of take a step back and you look at it from the outside, it's like, whoa, these kids are dealing with this crazy stuff. And one of the things that I find common throughout the podcast in general is that struggle builds character, right? You fail at something, and because of that failure, you actually succeed at something much more important. And one of the things I found, and I was curious if you brought it up, and you said that, if you called my mom, for example, if I was doing anything wrong, maybe I wouldn't have gotten beaten.
Yeah,
but
I was kidding about the beaten part.
No.
I didn't ever promote beating.
I like that you say that because the equivalent of being beaten, whatever Mr. Amara called to talk about, if you do that again, you're not doing anything. Now a parent won't even take a cell phone away.
Right.
And that is a big difference. And I think parenting has changed. Are you a parent?
Yes.
Okay, so you're a parent. I'm a parent. I think that what I was really curious about, because one of the things I noticed is that people don't want their kids to fail anymore. I don't know if parents ever did, but
right, there's tough love and there's not tough love.
Yeah,
right.
But I feel like now, because grades are so significant, I mean, they were significant back then, but I feel like they're much more significant now. It's like, I remember failing. I remember doing poorly in the beginning of your class even. And because I did poorly, I had to figure out ways to adapt. And that actually made me a better chemistry student. And I have examples in all classes, I feel like now, if you fail, it's almost like the parent calls you instead of you calling the parent, and it's like, how could you fail my kid, or how could you even give my kid a B?
Right.
Have you noticed that change?
Absolutely. Can't tell you how many times a parent will come in and say, "Oh, I hated chemistry," or "I never took chemistry." So they don't really have perspective that it's a hard course and not everybody gets 100 just for trying.
Right.
So a lot of parents have the mentality that if the kid tries, they should be 90s.
Right.
Which doesn't really work that way in chemistry. But that's the mentality they have. So I've had that all along to an extent. It certainly has increased.
Do you think there is a danger in parents not letting their kids fail? And like you said, back in my day, you'd call my parents and they'd yell at me for whatever I did. But now, a lot of times, at least I see in my school, they kind of turn it around. Like,
right, what are you doing wrong?
What are you doing wrong?
No, that I think is all around. That's everywhere.
Yeah.
There've been a bunch of cartoons written about it and all.
But why? What do you think's changed, and how? Well, yeah, talk about that.
Because I think to a parent now, they desperately need to be their kid's friend.
Oh, you think that's part
of it?
And
I think back in the day, they more so needed to be a parent.
Oh, we're talking as two educators with experience, And I always felt like not letting your kids fail was always something that like parents were yes, part of it is that they're friends, but it's also if they fail, the repercussions are much more severe now because everything's so competitive. My daughter's taking chem right now. She's a 10th grader. And I have 3 kids, but my oldest kid is taking chemistry. And it's the subject she's doing the worst in. And it's an honors chem class, so it's hard. But I think the reason she's doing the worst in it is because of me. Because if she ever has a question, she comes to me and I answer it. But that, it's like almost like, you understand? Like
you're feeding it to
her. I'm feeding it to her. But I'm not allowing her to struggle through the chemistry like I did. And my struggling in any class, overcoming that struggle and figuring out, oh, this is what I have to do to succeed. That's an important life skill that you do learn in high school. But I'm not allowing her to do that in chemistry the way she's doing it in math or honors this or AP Psych or whatever it is. So right. I don't know if that's something that you've noticed or whatever, but that's, for me, it's interesting.
Yeah,
that struggle. You want your kids to struggle, but like there's a part of you as a parent that doesn't because you don't know what the repercussions of that struggle is. Will they not do well in the end? So you kind of have to help them. But you have how many kids?
3 kids.
Oh, 3 kids. How old?
34, 31, and 29.
Okay, 3 kids like me, 3 years apart like mine for the most part. Do you think teaching helped you become a better parent?
No, I think being a parent helped me be a better teacher.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Huh, why?
Because you could see your own kids' struggles and realize, okay, what they did today on a test, that's not the most important, just mental health is more important and things of that type. So you would realize, look, if this was my kid, there may be something behind this action that this kid is doing. Because, again, with my kids, they were all over the place.
Oh, were they?
One was super nerd genius, one was a hippie chick, and one was like a high school dropout type. So I had all 3.
Oh, wow.
One went on to law school, graduated first in class, Notre Dame, the whole 9 yards. One dropped out of high school.
Oh,
and
really?
The one in the middle,
oh my God,
did fine.
That's so interesting.
They were just all over the place.
Wow.
So I could relate to different kids that way.
Is there anything as a teacher that you took to your kids, or no? It was really all the opposite.
I think it was mostly the opposite, but once in a while in teaching, you'll see how a certain kid responds and think, okay, well that worked well with that kid, and maybe I should try this at home. Type of a thing, an approach.
Right, okay.
Whether it was a harsher approach or a more gentle approach or whatever it was.
Okay,
but
good.
Mostly the other direction.
Okay. I know you said you don't reach out to kids, but how does one stay connected with kids at this point as a retired teacher?
Again, the lady I'm seeing is from Hewlett, so I have connection there.
Oh, so you're back and forth.
Be back and forth and see different kids.
When you go to Hewlett, are you like almost? Do you hope that you run into some old students? Do you hope that happens?
Yeah, it's nice. I think so. Because mostly I have positive relations with kids.
Right.
So, it's not like I'm afraid. Like, oh my God, they're gonna give me flat tires or something.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, everyone loved you, but
just that ginger kid. Was the only one. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about you it's interesting that people loved you because you were a very hard teacher.
Yes.
Very. I mean, you were known as, especially in the honors class, probably the hardest teacher. Why do you think you were so loved, yet you were so hard? Do you think it's because kids learned how to struggle in your class? Like, what do you think? Or it's just your personality?
I hope it's because I showed that I cared.
Yeah.
I really did. I did care about the kids.
No, I can say we felt it.
And the same way you talk about, kids need to struggle and learn from struggling. I just kept on trying. Like, I'd have kids with averages in the 60s or 70s and stuff, and they'd be all upset, and you just try to make it a point that, this is the way life is. And not everybody's going to be 90s. And with chemistry, that almost always was their lowest grade.
Always.
Even with you, I'm sure.
Probably, yeah.
It's not basket weaving.
Right. Do you ever teach an AP chemistry class or no?
No, we had a choice between honors and AP. Myself and Mr. Stark.
Oh, yeah.
And he wanted to do AP.
Oh.
And I'd rather do the honors.
But yeah, so it's interesting that you, I guess, even though you were difficult, you say, I wonder if, I look at myself as a teacher, and I don't give busy work, and I don't think I remember.
I didn't either.
You didn't.
I was not a big homework person.
But so I wonder, who knows how I become who I become. I think I do what I do just because I am who I am, but I wonder if that was also part of the inspiration, because I think I'm a hard teacher. I give hard tests, not a lot of busy work, and again, some kids thrive in that environment, and some kids don't, and that's life, and that's okay.
Yep, I agree.
But I wonder if part of it's your inspiration, that's how you were. You were a caring guy. You were a funny guy. You were a quirky guy. You were the guy who didn't give a lot of work, yet gave hard tests. That's probably my persona as well.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, so I wonder, the power of influence is big. So does it make you feel...
But again, you'll never know it.
Yeah.
No, unless somebody shows up 21 years later and says, hey, Dave,
let's do a podcast.
Can we talk?
I was thinking about this as I was driving up your street today to come to your house. I went really slow, not just because I came early, but because I actually, I was taking in this feeling, there's always that joke, like, teachers don't have lives.
Right, they live in the closet.
They live in the closet of the room,
right.
And then when you come in, they come out of the closet. And when I'm driving up your street, it was almost like, I've never been in a situation where I've come to a teacher's house before, but when I have these interviews with kids, they come to my house, and I wonder now if they felt the same way, like, this is a real person.
Right.
And of course, I'm a teacher for over 20 years, so I know teachers are real people, but there was something about driving down your street, seeing the homes and the street that you probably drove down every day, all the time. It was like emotional almost, that like, wow, this is who he is. Like, this is who he's a real person. So, one of the things in the podcast is I let myself be vulnerable with the kids, and I, some kids appreciate it, and I'm sure most appreciate it, but it's also risky. So the vulnerability part of that is real. Do you find yourself vulnerable with kids? Like, is that something you ever did, or would you do that? Is that worthwhile?
No, I would. I mean, there's some teachers that, the kids can't know anything about me. They can't know I have a life, all that kind of stuff. I was never that much into that concept.
Okay.
I remember early on, I guess it was probably my first or second year, I had some kid in chemistry who had failed it the year before.
Oh.
And about halfway through, so I got him the second time around.
Okay.
About halfway through, I said to him, so how's this? Is this any better or any worse? Is this working for you? And he goes, look, don't take this wrong. He goes, you're a great teacher. I love being in your class. But whatever the topic was, orbitals or whatever, he goes, the teacher last year was way better on that topic.
That's so funny.
And I appreciated it. I actually changed the way that I taught.
You do?
The
so
SPDs, the whole
interesting.
deal.
So that's a great anecdote, actually. You learn from the kids in some ways.
And this was a kid who failed chemistry already, and he was like, okay, there's got to be a better way.
Wow, that's so funny. Some other themes that come up, like the first season of the podcast is 10 or so individual stories of kids that had their own struggles. One kid struggled with racism. One kid struggled with coming to school from Korea and not speaking English well. One kid struggled with learning disabilities, and one kid struggled, she was in a wheelchair, and there's so many different struggles. The theme is, struggle, of course. And it's the other thing about teaching high school is, like, I'm so focused, and I'm sure you are too, as a chemistry teacher. It's like when kids come into your class, like, yeah, your job is to teach them chemistry. And of course, we talked about how there's way more important lessons that you imparted on me, and I've hopefully imparted on kids. But there's so much that kids are going through, and like, for example, a kid that's dealing with racism, like, that part of his life, he's taking that into your chem class, but you don't know that, right? The girl that doesn't speak English well is taking that into your chem class, and then trying to navigate not only the chemistry but these other things that are going on. And I personally, like when I think back to my high school experience, in your class even, I didn't have any of these issues. I feel very lucky. I mean, I literally, the only focus I had in high school was to try to do well.
Yep.
Right? Like, I mean, how lucky am I that that's what I could say?
Same with me.
30 years. So you felt the same way as a high school student?
Absolutely.
No issues that...
No, you get your little moody things and that's about it. Like, oh, my life sucks. Okay, yeah.
I remember sitting in your class, actually. I have this vivid memory of sitting in your class, and I think I sat, I don't know if they were assigned seats, but I think I was in the second seat in the second row. And we'd be going over a test, and I don't know if you remember, like, the questions were like, this was true, and then that was true.
Is it cause effect?
Yeah, and I remember thinking, like, to my head, I'm like, and I think this is part of why I wanted to be a teacher. I mean, because most kids were probably sitting there pissed at you for giving those questions. But me, I'm like, if I was a teacher, I would give these questions and maybe do this differently and maybe do... So, like, there are moments that I can remember in your class where, I mean, maybe it's the privilege. I didn't have to worry about anything else but what was going on at that very moment. So that allowed me to reevaluate and assess your exams or your teaching style or those things. So maybe that's part of why I became a teacher in a way, because I didn't have any of these other stresses that,
Right, help you analyze it better, that focus there.
Yeah, the first kid I interviewed was a kid named Sam Eshigoff. I don't know if you know who he is. He cheated on the SATs. He was arrested. He was a whole scandal in grade. Like, he was 60 Minutes interview. He was getting paid a lot of money to take tests.
I'd seen that
for kids.
That whole scandal.
So that's him, and the cheating aspect in general. Like, is that something you dealt with as a teacher?
Cheating is a big thing.
Yeah.
I don't think you could ever really control it. The seats are just too close, no matter how you cut it.
Do you take it personally when a kid cheats in your class?
No.
Did you ever think of me as a cheater?
No.
Not at all.
No.
Would you be surprised if I told you I cheated?
No.
Why?
Because I think most kids cheat.
Yeah.
At different points on different things in different ways. Like, I cheated when I was a student on different things.
Yeah. It's a good segue into... I want to be clear that I was not this perfect student in high school. I tell my kids all the time, I remember to this day cheating on the earth science regents. I had Ms. Miller. I don't know if you remember her. And I didn't know earth science at all. But I sat next to... I probably shouldn't say his name, but I sat next to this kid, and I did really poorly all year, but I knew if I did well in the regents, I would succeed. And I wound up... I don't even know why. I didn't even study. But I don't know if I made an arrangement with my friend. I don't know how it worked out, but I sat literally right next to him, and I cheated the entire test, which is so... I know kids cheat, but it's one of the things that bothers me more than anything else. And I think it's because it's important that and I know, whether I did a good job or not. And cheating actually doesn't allow you as a teacher to self-evaluate. So... It brings me to one of the things I thought about for 30 years since I was in your class. I remember there was a teacher's resource book. I think I saw a question that you used. And, I say this, and there's a part of me that feels bad about it now 30 years later. I don't even know how you'll react, but you said I was a smart kid. I came up as smart. Listen, I got a 95 in the region, so I knew what I was doing. I did, But this is before Amazon. This is before, like, Google, even computers. And I called up the company I think it was Allen and Bacon. I don't know. Do you remember that? Is that it? Yeah. And I called up to try to find out a way to get this book because there were some questions that were on it. And as a teacher 30 years later, how would you feel if I tell you that I got that book?
It really is not a big deal. It's just... what I'm going to do now is I'll go back and change your grade. So if you get a call from the high school saying, Randy, you got to come back in because you got to pass chem. Well, I had a kid, and he may have been in your class. He was a quarterback on the football team.
I remember this story. No, to this day, I remember this story. Yep. Tell the story.
Who did the same thing, basically. He got the answers to the test somehow. Yeah. Probably by getting the book, that I used for the test questions. And... he had a failing grades. He was pretty much 60s in the class.
Oh, is that right?
And didn't belong in there. And he was the quarterback for the football team. Yeah. He was applying to Yale and everything.
I remember. I know exactly who the kid was, and I've known him since.
So there you go. Okay. And on one of the tests, one of the harder tests, I think he had 100. And his average was 60s. And I remember being like, okay, something's way wrong. And the kids all being shocked. And it was like, okay, how do I deal with this? And it was a double period chem class. So I said, okay, well, this kid did so well on this test, I'm going to have him come up and explain all the questions.
I remember
one by
this.
one.
Literally, he was in my class.
Yep. So I put him up front, and it was like question number 1, and he had to explain. They were all a class of smart kids. It's honest chem, and he was not one of them. And he went up there, and the kids said, "Oh, I got question 1 wrong. How did that work out?" And he goes, "Well, on that one, I wasn't really sure. So what I did was I just picked this one." And then it was a question 2, and it was like a 100-question test because it was a double period test also. And he was like sweating bullets. He was just going nuts, right? And and then after the bell rang at the end of the first period, and then we take that little break and then come back. And I said, "Okay, go ahead. You're back up there again. Still explain the rest of them." And then I got a call from the mother. Mm-hmm. And she was furious that I embarrassed her son. So I had to explain. I didn't embarrass him. I was just so impressed. He did so well. I wanted, because the kids didn't have this great impression of him as being a strong student. I wanted him to be able to shine,
That's an amazing story. I mean, to this day, I remember that day because I tell you this is partly in fear of how you'd respond, and in some ways it's bad, right? Maybe
when you get the letter from the high school, we'll see what you think.
But I remember that because I was like, wow, if he ever does that to me, I would freak out. I can't believe that's the only year that happened, that you actually remember that.
That was the year. Because I think I actually changed my sources after that also.
Wow, so in some ways that was influential for you too.
Yeah, but I just remember the mother going, "And now he'll never get into Yale because of you." It's like, okay.
Wow.
And he wasn't a bad kid. He was a nice kid. He was just in over his head.
Yes.
So he did what you have to do if you're in over your head.
Yeah.
You got to find some way to survive.
Hearing me though now tell you that, because I'll be honest, it was on my mind for 30 years. Because I feel bad for cheating, and I almost feel like when kids say to me like, at a disrespect if I cheat on your test, I don't feel that way, but do you feel disrespected in any way, honestly? Like now, looking back?
No, not at all. See, if it had stuck out, because your grades are always way up there. Mm-hmm. If it stuck out, it probably would have screwed you too.
Right.
But with this kid, it was weird because I couldn't change his grade.
Right.
Because he never said I cheated.
Ah.
So what I did was every lab that he did, when I graded the labs, if he had like a letter spelled wrong, it was wrong. And
that is amazing.
And then other tests after that, because they were like 60-question tests or whatever, every once in a while, and we'd always go over tests like the next day or whatever.
Yeah.
I would just mark a couple of X1s wrong, from then to the end of the year. And the kid never looked because he never paid attention because he didn't give a crap.
Right. Oh my God, it's so funny.
So it basically balanced out.
It balanced out. That's good. Okay, good. In addition to being influential in me becoming a teacher, I when I came to you and you told me it's definitely not the big bucks, you did tell me though, before you interview, let come in. I mean, we literally went through interview questions. Mm-hmm. You trained me. How would you respond to this question? Here's a question that they're going to ask you. How would you talk about that? So you clearly were accepting of my choice, and you actually wanted me to succeed at that choice. Do you think I made the right choice? Like thinking back, like
here's what I thought. Whatever you do, you really just need to be motivated, or else it really sucks.
Yeah, for real.
To be stuck in a job that you're not motivated to do. Listening to you now and your enthusiasm and the influence you're having on your kids and stuff, I think you absolutely made the right choice. Yeah, might not feel like it in the pocketbook, but
right. No, that's real. Yeah,
but I clearly think you made the right choice.
Yeah.
But it's not for everybody. That's
no,
for
it's
sure.
definitely not for everyone. But does it feel more special? Like you talk about the girl who was getting deported, who was gay, who came to you and said something very emotional about your impact on her. Then you speak to someone like me who not as emotional really, but it's almost as significant, if not the most significant. My choice in careers was influenced by you. Is there any more weight held on that? Or
okay, now I see why you're doing this podcast piece. Because the podcast piece, you can say not emotional, right? Because they can't see you. But I see you cry every other question. I just ran out of a whole box of tissues.
That's why there's no videos.
Right, just got rid of the whole box of tissues is gone. You say not emotional. Come on, man. They can't see it. I can see it.
It is emotional. I mean, it is emotional being here, honestly. But I meant, like, you know what I'm saying, though, right? Is there a bigger weight of significance put on the fact that I chose a career because of you versus what you did for that girl? And I'm sure there is 100 other versions of both of those that you've been a part of.
it's really nice, the career path.
Yeah.
But any influence that I've had in any way, shape, or form feels really good. Like, really, really good. And again, of all the people I've taught, and it was a gazillion people.
Right.
The fact that, I'm here with you now kind of thing is really special.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing.
No, it is.
That I usually don't get. And it's the same with you. You're going to influence 90 billion people and never know it. So once in a while, it's nice to know. Oh, yeah.
So it feels good.
Yeah, it feels good, even though you're still a ginger. It still feels good.
Still always be a ginger. Listen, like I said, having hair makes me a ginger. I'll take it. Any nickname that involves me having hair. So I think back to you in high school, and you were this guy who didn't have much stress in life, right? You were you went through high school the way I went through high school.
Right, had nice, healthy, normal family relations and everything.
And again, I know people that had the exact opposite to somewhere in between. Yep. And we both became teachers, and you became a teacher circumstantially. I mean, literally, you wanted to be a vet. You love science, so you have to love science and you have to love kids, but you love science. Just thinking about the moments, like, you didn't become a vet because of money. You took education classes because of their simplicity, and yet those two facts got you into the teaching profession. Then you loved it. Then your love of teaching got you probably from that private school to a great school like Hewlett High School. Then in comes, who knows why I moved to Hewlett, but I could have had, to be honest, the pathway is really, it's so interesting when I think of my own pathway to becoming an educator, but like, even my pathway to getting into your class was unique. I just think about this. I took earth science. I did terrible all year because I didn't know how to study. I was a freshman. Then I cheated my entire earth science regents, and I got a 91. The kid I cheated off of, by the way, got a 90. Then I go into biology class with Ms. Jung at the time, who was Dr. Schmidt, who also, I always liked her. She was very new. I think it was her first year. But I didn't know how to be a student back then. And yet, one of the things that happened in that class, to be honest, is I had a tutor, and I talk about this, and because I was tutored, I was able to help other kids in that particular class do better in that class. And like I said, it made me feel good. It was like the first moment of my life where I felt like being a teacher actually helped me feel better. And then because I got tutored, and because I did well in that particular class, I was recommended for honors chem. Because I was in honors chem, I happened to have been in your class because you didn't want to teach AP chem. I'm just like, the strings are crazy of influence. I went into that honors chem class, and I struggled a little bit, but part of my growth in that class was getting a resource that allowed me to succeed in your class in a way that maybe I would have without it, but maybe I wouldn't have. And if I didn't, I probably would have had to drop your class. And because of my success in your class and the feeling I got of doing well in your class and the feeling that you gave me as a student, and then here we are being able to reflect, for me, 30 years after I was in your class, you are now a retired teacher. I am in the middle towards the later part of my career, or in if I go 40 years like you, I'm literally mid.
See, I did private school; those don't count towards retirement. So
that's
you
true.
Can get out after 30.
Oh, right, okay. But here we are reflecting on not just the power of influence, but the field of education and what it means to be a teacher, and what are the things you like about it versus the things I like about it, and they seem like they're pretty much the same. We're sitting here right now because of all those factors, and here we are.
There's another piece that I think you're probably even missing. I think you have it to a certain extent, but when we were setting up for this podcast thing, I was thinking back, to days with you. Yeah. And I said, I think he had, her name is now Dr. Schmidt. Yeah. But that was Mrs. Jung. Yeah. At that point in time, because the kids that came from there only, as opposed to any of the other bio classes, those kids were so well prepared work habit wise and discipline wise. Oh, wow. On what it took to succeed in her class. Because she was not the easy grader. She was the hard grader.
And it was a regular bio class.
Right. But all the kids that came from her class were the ones who, when they came into honors chem, were ready to go.
Oh. Because she was hard.
Because she was hard. And if she recommended a kid from Regents Bio especially, those kids knew what they were doing. you know, she's got a big part of where you're at.
Yeah, no, she is, and she was also. I will say two things about Dr. Schmidt, Miss Jung, and I remember a moment where it's interesting because I never would have brought this up, but it happened. I was in the science office where you guys sat or whatever it was, and I think I was waiting for you to talk, and I was talking to Dr. Schmidt, and she said, you know, she was like, "You're going to be a great teacher." I know it. I know you're going to be a great teacher. Very, very encouraging. Like in a way that even you weren't, but you were realistic about it.
You sure you want this?
Yeah, you sure you want this because it's not the big bucks.
Right.
But there was a red-headed physics teacher, Miss Spate, maybe.
Yeah.
I never had her, but she said to me, "I don't know if you should be doing this. Why would you?" She didn't know me, but I to this day I remember this, and I think this was such a significant moment. I can't believe I never talked about this or even thought about it. But she said to me, "You may not like being a teacher. You're not going to necessarily be a good teacher even." And I remember thinking, who the hell are you? You don't even know me. But Dr. Schmidt said something that I'll never forget. And she said, "Randy is going to be a great teacher." I look now at kids and I know when they're going to be successful at X, Y, and Z, whatever they decide to do. You know, if it's an investment banking, I know the kids are going to be a successful investment banking. Right. If it's teaching, I get that. If it's a lawyer, I get that. And I remember thinking to myself, Miss Spate might be right. Maybe I won't be a good teacher. And then Miss Jung's Dr. Schmidt's encouragement. It's the same person.
Yep.
She was Miss Jung when I had her. She became Dr. Schmidt.
Same person.
Her comment really was inspirational, but I remember thinking, maybe Dr. Schmidt doesn't know what she's talking about. But now as a teacher, all these years later, I realized that what she knew is what I see in the other kids. She just saw something in me that she knew I'd be a good teacher.
Absolutely.
And I appreciated that. And the other thing about Dr. Schmidt's class is the thing that really ties it together, which again, I never thought about it, is I really struggled in her class in the beginning. And it goes back to everything I talk about in this entire podcast. Because I struggled, I learned how to succeed in her class. If she made it easy for me, maybe I would have been great in bio, but I definitely wouldn't have succeeded in your class. But because of that struggle in that particular class, it led me to succeeding in her class and helping these other kids and and feeling good about it, and then going into your class, and again, the rest is history. But that's such an interesting connection I never made.
It's funny because even like with honors chem, and it was tough. I made it tough. I mean, you
Very
could have gone
tough.
to a lot of other schools and it would be a breeze.
Yes.
You get 90s for nothing.
Yeah.
But I always thought that, you know, if you can go through honors chem here and like AP chem with Mr. Stark, you go to any college. I don't care, you go to Harvard, wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
And you're on equal footing with anybody in that class, or better footing than pretty much everyone.
Right.
And that was always my mentality on trying to keep the standards way up.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to, these are the smart kids. They're going to go on and take challenging courses. I don't want them to cruise through and get like 90s and then get there and get their socks knocked off.
Right.
Yeah.
And now it's, again, the power of influence. I keep bringing it up, but I think probably unconsciously or maybe consciously, I am the exact same way with my kids. So the lessons you taught me through that class, not just about being a teacher, but how to even run a class, has carried through to this next generation.
That is interesting.
And then who knows if I'll inspire, hopefully I will, you know, maybe to be a teacher or to be whatever it is in life. But like, as you said, it doesn't matter how the inspiration is. The fact that we are making a difference matters. High school matters.
Yes, it does. Go figure, you know?
Ah, that's great. Do you enjoy this conversation?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it was fun. It was great to catch up.
But now I have a question for you. Ready?
Sure, yeah,
It's
go
going to
ahead.
put you on the spot.
All right, I'm ready.
This will show whether you've listened today or
Okay.
not. Okay. You were referring to Mrs. Spate
Yep.
and Mrs. Young.
Yep.
Young,
Dr.
whatever.
Yeah.
Dr. Young.
Dr. Schmidt.
Dr. Schmidt, whatever his name is. All right. And one was saying, this is what you should do and you'd be great at this. And the other was saying, don't do this. Why should you have known not to listen to Mrs. Spate?
Other than the fact that I didn't have her?
Other than the fact that you didn't. That would certainly be that'd be the logical answer. But forget the logical answer.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a serious
Can
question...
you picture her?
Yeah,
Can you picture Dr. Schmidt?
Yeah.
Just looking at them.
I was going to give a serious answer, but you're looking for a less...
It's not that serious, but it's accurate. Mrs. Spate was a ginger.
Never trust a ginger.
There you go.
That's perfect. That's a great way to end. That's it. It all comes back to your first memory of me.
That's it.
That's the message you want to impart to the world listening to this podcast.
That's the key. You know?
High school matters and never trust a ginger.
Yep.
That's amazing. Well, this is great. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
I really had a great time.
Me
Mr.
too.
Amara,
Thank
Steve
you very
Amara,
much for coming
good
in.
work. I want to thank my guest, my inspiration, and my former teacher, Mr. Amara, Steve Amara. And now I also want to thank all of you for making this season a success. To my listeners, thank you for tuning in and for the amazing feedback you gave me. To my guests, I'm beyond grateful that you are willing to spend time with me and willing to share your personal stories. It didn't only mean a lot to me, it meant a lot to anyone listening. And for anyone else that was involved, that helped, that gave me feedback, there were so many people that were instrumental in making this a success. So I thank you all for your time, and I look forward to, I cannot wait to come back next season. If you enjoyed this conversation, please rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, and tell all of your friends to rate and review it too. Every positive review helps new listeners find the show, so spread the word and subscribe. I want to see those 5 stars. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, send me a DM at hsmatterspod, or you can send me an email the old-fashioned way at hsmatterspod@gmail.com. Also, follow us on social media at the handle hsmatterspod for weekly updates on the podcast, for pictures of me and guests, for pictures of guests from high school, and any other information about the show. High School Matters was created, produced, and edited by yours truly, your host, Randy Appel. Consulting producers are John Fuss and David Friedman. Sound consultant is Peter Lennox. Our music is written and performed by me and is produced by Lee Tepper. High School Matters is, and always has been, a Belston production. 88766 signing off. I hope everyone learned something and enjoyed.